and welcome back to Party Chick Astrology. I'm Nina.
I'm Shaina.
And this is Lilith in Capricorn.
As we always mention, we've got lots of links down below. Me and Nina both sell birth chart readings, so our websites will be linked down below. We both have separate YouTube channels. That will be linked down below, along with a bunch of other stuff. Nina has some merch. I have a TikTok. If you want more of us, you got it, okay? And it's all down there. I'm a Capricorn today. I'm a saleswoman, all right. Check it out.
And just so you know, this series is of Lilith through the signs and through the houses. So if you have Lilith in houses 1 through 9 and you're watching this at the time that it's posted, listen, you've got another video to watch. And if you want to know more about Lilith herself, what she represents, then you can check out our What Does Lilith Mean video, or whatever that video is called. And we are doing the Black Moon Lilith, which can be the mean Lilith or the true Lilith. They're just two different ways of calculating the same Lilith.
With Lilith in any sign, it always starts with an exile from that sign's experience. So Lilith in Capricorn deals a lot with authority. It deals a lot with parental figures. It deals a lot with teachers, people in positions of power, or something along those lines. And Capricorn also represents a sort of security, a sort of financial or just general feeling of security in your life. And so with Lilith in Capricorn, there might have just been a lack of a solid foundation, a lack of a feeling of this security from a young age. You also might have had, strict parents with really tight rules and restrictions. Maybe they were a little domineering. Capricorn usually traditionally represents the father, so this could especially be a father figure that displays those traits, but it could be both parents, and we all have different family dynamics, of course. You also might feel a major pushback from, like I mentioned, people in authority. Like you weren't given respect from them, or you rebelled from giving them respect because you felt as though they didn't deserve it. Or you might have just been really wishing that you were given some sort of authority or given some sort of position of power like that from a young age, but you were never given such. Or you were somebody who had to grow up very fast and take on responsibilities from a young age. This is going to be especially more true if you have other personal planets in Capricorn kind of reinforcing that. And what's really weird is when I was looking up celebrities for this Lilith in Capricorn placement, I noticed more than usual that people with Lilith in Capricorn had major planetary placements in Capricorn as well.
Right, I think that makes sense because when you're looking at celebrities, you're looking at people in the public eye, and so in order for them to have a healthy career, they probably have other Capricorn influences in their chart sort of aiding that public perception. But Capricorn can still have to do with sort of not just being in the public eye, but this overall sense of respectability and capability. Capricorn is the third earth sign, so it's building off of the lessons that the previous two earth signs dealt the zodiac, right? So with Taurus, there's this idea of there is value, and Taurus is content with that value. It's like a plot of land, and the Taurus is like, nice, we like that plot of land. Then Virgo is about harvesting what you're able to grow in that plot of land, making use of it, that sort of practicalness. And Capricorn is turning everything that Virgo harvested into a pyramid scheme, basically. No, that's a little harsh, but Capricorn wants to utilize everything, make use of things, and propel their future forward with the tools. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat being an absolute maniac. Capricorn's motto is to use. Capricorn is somewhat of an opportunist. It can be an opportunist to the point of creating an MLM, a pyramid scheme, making its success off of the backs of others. And so the exile experience with Lilith and Capricorn might have to do with a lack of being bolstered up, a lack of being made to feel like you are capable, a lack of being made to feel like you are powerful and respectable. With Capricorn, it's more so how you're seen by others, the power in relationship to how you stack up socially. And we live in a very Capricornian world, as you can tell by the fact that if you're not active, contributing, economic member of society, then you don't get healthcare. So basically the government is saying that you deserve to die. Wow, that came out like really intensely, but I don't know. So it can be really disempowering in that way to have that exile experience of Capricorn, and naturally to have Lilith in Capricorn makes you obsessed with being able to experience what you missed out on in terms of the Capricornian energies, and prove your worthiness, and usually by whatever means necessary. Also practically accumulate wealth, accumulate status by any means necessary, which is why, you know, the pyramid scheme example seemed appropriate for this video. Not that it always goes that extreme every time, but I don't know, I can't.
If somebody's given a lot of Capricorn, they usually have traditional values instilled into them. But with Lilith and Capricorn, of course, it's that exile and rebellious nature of us. So you're going to rebel against those traditional values that you were given. And this can also be seen in rebelling against authority, whoever represents authority, and those kinds of things. And this goes into hating being told what to do and how to do it, really rebelling against that structure as well. Especially because Capricorn is all about efficiency. So if a Lilith in Capricorn does not see this as the most efficient, I don't think that they're going to be comfortable just sucking it up and doing that thing because of other reasons. Their Lilith will be like, well, I'm not just going to suck it up and do it, which is why I think sometimes Lilith and Capricorns might have some trouble with more Virgo or Taurus-y jobs where you're working under somebody or you're working for someone. They might really not want to do it, rebel against that, not see the value in it. And that's why I think that whole idea of the pyramid scheme or something along those lines can come in, because the Lilith in Capricorn wants to be its own boss. And I think this might be if you have other Capricorn stuff that's healthier. In some ways this can be really great. I've seen a lot of creatives that have Lilith in Capricorn and other Capricorn placements that are their own boss because they control what they do, because they're somebody that's artistic and successful with it. But of course, if maybe you don't have that kind of stuff to fall back upon, you can easily go to nefarious ways to kind of be that leader and be in control of that stuff. The Lilith in Capricorn can, of course, with all this being said, can be kind of a very cruel boss sometimes, or a very cold boss, or a very domineering boss. And a lot of that has to do with when they were younger, they felt like they had very domineering authority figures, as I said, and they might have even had some situations, because it is Lilith, it is a lot darker, and it can even go to some more sexual places. They might have had authority figures that very much took advantage of them or manipulated them, or, you know, tried to incorrectly place their power upon them. There can be a cycle there with abusing your position of authority for sure. And of course, this is Lilith, this is a more minor thing, so this isn't going to be true with everyone, but it can definitely be something that's seen. And I think that that might be why a lot of Lilith and Capricorns want to just work for themselves, because they don't want to have to deal with all that social stuff for this and this and that. But then again, I guess maybe sometimes Lilith and Capricorn can go the other way, and they have this like extreme desire to have people under them, and to kind of control them and to kind of be the person that everybody comes to. So yeah, I mean, of course, just like Lilith, it all just depends on the rest of the chart.
Yeah, I think that point wraps back around to the fact that so many celebrities with Lilith and Capricorn also have strong Capricorn placements, because Lilith and Capricorn really has this get rich quick attitude, and definitely being in the public eye is a really, I mean, relatively easy in a lot of ways, as far as there's not a lot of manual brute labor or anything like that to make a lot of money. At the same time, it's also a difficult business to break into. So it would make sense that the Lilith and Capricorn celebrities are attracted to that sort of get rich quick career. Yeah. But also have the other Capricorn placements that give them the potential to actually break in through that industry.
And I was also thinking about how we always say, like, Lilith is nonsensical. And with these, like, creative, more artistic things, or just being in the public eye, it can be kind of nonsensical. Kind of who gets famous sometimes, who gets popular sometimes. You know, there are always people trying to break down the structure of, like, how to make a viral video, but that's just not how it's going to happen. You're going to kind of nonsensically get famous. Let's go into what I'm wearing. It's pretty fucking obvious. I feel silly even explaining it, because I just went with the obvious choice of, like, the suit. And I went with the glasses, just because I figured it was a part of it, you know, professional. But, I mean, maybe it is a little bit Lilithy, because it's, like, professional, but it's like, I'm gonna make it pink. I'm still gonna rebel against the traditional suit. I don't know.
Very big girl boss energy.
Yes, exactly. Millennial girl boss energy. Oh my god, having a Neptune in Capricorn and a Lilith in Capricorn sounds very overwhelming.
I mean, the fact that it's like you said, millennial girl boss, just goes to show that it is a Neptune in Capricorn phenomenon.
Obviously, you know, Lilith wants to be on top no matter what. We kind of said that. So these people have a ruthless ambition for power and for success. I've heard a Lilith in Capricorn once say in an interview, when I was 12 and I wasn't famous, I felt like a failure. Definitely a hyper fear of failure and doing anything at any cost to avoid it. And this is already kind of the nature of Capricorn, but with Lilith and Capricorn, they're going to go much farther than that, which is also why Lilith and Capricorn can get the rep of, I hate this word, but like whoring yourself out kind of for success, for being at the top, you know, using sex as a way to further your career and boost it, you know, casting couch, sleeping with the right people. It can just be all that kind of stuff. Sex can get very much entangled in business. You might have an affair within your office, within your workplace. And also something that I was thinking, because Lilith and Capricorn can definitely have a very cold nature and have very calculated, walls up, does not want to be vulnerable at all kind of vibe to it, of course. And I was thinking of, because Tyra Banks has a Lilith in Capricorn, but then she's a Cancer rising. I feel like with America's Next Top Model and why it's getting a lot of flack, which, I mean, I agree, I'm not, is because people realized that she was very much stepping on and exploiting all of the contestants' emotions in the show, which I feel like is very much that Cancer rising Capricorn Lilith mentality, where she has this Cancer rising, she can seem like this mother kind of figure to everybody, but then her Lilith in Capricorn knows that she should exploit that for reality TV because that's what makes good television. So she was very much willing to step on people's feelings, to manipulate the girls and all that kind of stuff to get the show that she wants, so she can climb the ladder of success and become the Tyra Banks we all kind of know now.
I think that part of the reason that Lilith in Capricorn does find the need to have such dubious methods of success, if you will, manipulation, and, you know, all of these Lilith things, I think it all comes back to this root of the exile experience was not feeling capable. So if you feel like you're not inherently capable of success and you're exiled from that feeling of hard work pays off and that sort of Capricorn message, then naturally you're going to find loopholes, try to find loopholes, because you might not feel capable of just being able to put in the work and see that success. So you might find the need to go through the casting couch to, again, like, build your business on the backs of other people suffering. And naturally, like Shaina brought up as well, there's a very sexual component to Lilith, and Capricorn has a lot to do with power in terms of power structures, power over someone else. So there can be that theme in a Lilith and Capricorn's sexual life. And sometimes even to the point that if the person is acting fully out of their Lilith and not really trying to make sense of it or tame it at all, the consent can also be missing. An obligatory disclaimer of every video that Lilith does not rule your chart. It literally cannot rule anybody's chart, and so it can't rule your life. Obviously, it can be more prominent in some people than others. None of these interpretations should be taken as gospel because there are so many different ways that your Lilith can interact.
Yes. I was also going to say, I want to check out what degree Tyra Banks's Lilith in Capricorn is, and I bet you it's conjunct a lot of the later millennials, like Neptune in Capricorn or Uranus in Capricorn, because I know you've said, like, I realized how much, like, Tyra Banks's influence of, like, work, like, you can't have emotions when you work, you just have to do it, you just have to bow down, like, influenced even just you, and I'm sure so many other girls.
No, definitely, I was thinking the exact same thing, is that she has come under scrutiny specifically when our cultural voice at the moment is people who are not ruled by Capricornian generational placements. She's being held accountable by people who were maybe less under her spell or her influence by virtue of not having those strong generational Capricorn placements.
Spell, Neptune.
Yeah. And Lilith is the little witch casting the spell, and it's a recipe for something.
Another thing with Lilith and Capricorn is I think that a lot of times Lilith and Capricorns can obviously work themselves so much, but I think a lot of times, and I've even heard a Lilith and Capricorn say this, that sometimes they enjoy, a lot of times, more often than not, they enjoy being a workaholic. And a lot of times I notice it's because it's like, well, the more I work, the less I have to think about my emotions. Because the more I'm only focused on this work thing, it's almost like work becomes like an escape for, avoiding your daily life. And I think that Lilith and Capricorn feeds on that feeling of constant productivity. And definitely career goals can take precedence over everything else, especially like obviously treating people fairly, relationships, emotions, home life, all that kind of stuff. And I think a perfect example of the plight of a Lilith in Capricorn, and I don't think he has any other placements in Capricorn. If you know, I'm gonna butcher his name, Jodorowsky, I'm so sorry, but he's a director. He did Holy Mountain, but the main thing that I want to talk about is Dune. It's a movie based off of a book, and he was supposed to do this highly spectacular version of Dune, just this ultimate sci-fi. He's got some Aquarius energy in him. He did so much work on it, and he put so much on his plate. So much on everybody's plate. He wrote this whole like giant booklet of like costumes and scene by scene. Like he just poured his soul into this project. But it was almost like he did so much work that it's like hard for everybody else to keep up. He lost the relationship with his son because he was putting so much work into this movie. And the plight of the Lilith and Capricorn is that the authority figures, the big production studios, all turned it down because it was too Aquarius, basically, because it was too risky to take on. And it wound up being this whole thing. There's a documentary made about it, which feels so much like the plight of Lilith and Capricorn, just having something so prepared, so excellent that everybody still craves, and so many film nerds just wish that they had, but it was turned down by all these authority figures, all these production studios, and that's something that of course he's had to like wrestle a lot with. So I just think his plight is very Lilith and Capricorn.
Absolutely. That's another example of how even in your pursuit of Capricorn energy as Lilith and Capricorn, you can still be exiled over and over. It's that exile message of you're not capable.
Yes.
Even like your dreams are not Capricornian enough. Like maybe they're too Aquarius. They're not practical enough. You're not capable
the budget's
of actually
too big,
pulling this off. You're exiled from that energy of Capricorn of actually being able to pull through. So as much as sometimes the exile of Lilith and Capricorn can have to do with not having that work ethic, it can also, like, not having a work ethic doesn't always have to do with actually setting the goals and doing the stuff and getting up and going. It can also have to do with, playing the rules and being able to live up to certain expectations. It doesn't mean that you're falling short of the expectations. It can also mean that you're above the expectations.
Not like he was not an established director. He was an established director at this time, and he still was told no. As we're into the theme of being a workaholic, Lilith in Capricorn, I think, can also represent kind of working until the day that you die. And this doesn't always necessarily have to be a bad thing or something that's like disrespected, because I think of like David Bowie. Like David Bowie has a Lilith in Capricorn. He's also a Capricorn sun. But didn't he die and then his last album was released like right around that same time? You know, he literally produced stuff and was creating until the day he died, but you know, it was well accepted. So it's not always like Lilith and Capricorn's never going to get praise and never get acclaim, but if you think about it, like he passed and never got to reap the rewards of that final project that he did.
Lilith and Capricorn is just an interesting placement to interpret in this day and age, because we live in such a Capricornian focused society. We live in a society in which Capricorn values are mainstream values by and large.
Well, I know that America has second house in Capricorn with Pluto in Capricorn in the second house, which I think displays a lot of that kind of stuff. You know?
Yeah, that'll do it. So it's interesting because there are plenty of positive interpretations to make from Lilith in Capricorn when you consider what is valued in our society, like working until the day that you die. That's something rather honorable in today's day and age. Having that obsessive nature with your work is more honorable than having an obsessive nature with anything else in the world. So it makes it a very interesting placement to interpret specifically today.
I think that also just goes into itself though, because it's like, because this Capricorn stuff is so praised, the Lilith in Capricorn then feels that outer pressure, which is very Capricorn, that it's like, okay, so what I'm doing is right. Like I should be working myself to the bone. Like I'm constantly being told this and constantly being told this narrative. You know what I mean? So it just pushes it even farther. I think also with Lilith and Capricorn, like I said, you encounter a lot of authority figures or bosses that will abuse their position. And I think that can also go into asking to do more underhanded or risky things in the workplace. I think an example of this, I know I'm including so many celebrities, but it's just like, it's just working out. Just go with it, okay? is Clint Eastwood, because he was in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly franchise, which are Italian spaghetti westerns. The theme of Italian spaghetti westerns is kind of Lilith and Capricorn-y, because it's very much like Clint Eastwood was put in a lot of very risky situations. They would just be like, yeah, we're gonna blow up this bridge now, and like not really take any safety precautions, and they would get injured on set all the time. Like they would do some big shot and they'd be like, wait, is the camera running? Oh no, we gotta do it again. So much so that like The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, I don't know, I know it's actually, what's the actual series called? It's like A Fistful of Dollars series or something, I'm so sorry. And the third one, they bring in this new actor to play, I should know this stuff. And he was so shocked by the treatment of the actors and by just how, you know, just the crazy things that they were asked to do and the dangerous situations they were put in. But Clint Eastwood was like, just kind of like his Lilith and Capricorn self was just like, that's kind of part of the job. You know, if you're gonna do this job, you have to deal with this kind of abuse and these kind of scary Lilithy situations, you know, and that kind of just be, that might just be what you're asked to do, you know?
That's also very reminiscent of Tyra Banks and the way that she treated America's Next Top Model. Any Lilith will do anything to satisfy the Lilith. And so Lilith and Capricorn will do anything to satisfy that sense of success. It can even be, you know, slimy Wall Street stuff, manipulating people into taking out loans that you know that they can't afford, but because you get a fat commission off of it, and, you know, just that sense of building your wealth and status off of the backs of other people, avoiding sort of the straight and narrow, because that's what Capricorn is all about, the straight and narrow, and Lilith will rebel against that straight and narrow and get to the top in some other way, maybe by climbing a pyramid instead of climbing the ladder, you know,
taking the elevator,
way to the top, you know, taking the elevator, all sorts of different things.
Let's go into kind of sex and partners and that kind of thing. Obviously, Lilith in Capricorn is going to have a very goal-oriented sexuality. They may only feel compelled to have sex. I mean, not always. Again, this is just a smaller influence, but some of their motivation, or a lot of their motivation to have sex with somebody, like I mentioned, might be to get ahead, might be for some kind of more strategic work reason. They might also really like power plays in the bedroom. These people might not want to be very subservient to the other person. Like I kind of mentioned, it's very common to have affairs with bosses and people of high authority and that stuff to get out, and that stuff can even ruin your reputation. A big thing that I'll kind of go into is also like reputation is a huge thing with Lilith and Capricorn, and your reputation can really be fucked with because of this placement, or people can always try to fuck with your reputation. So what I thought was super interesting is two people that have Lilith and Capricorn are Hillary Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. So I don't know, Bill Clinton maybe has a type there. But they were both very much affected because of this workplace affair. Like, they're both very much known for it. And obviously Monica Lewinsky's reputation was just completely dragged through the mud because of this situation. And I'm sure she has been pegged on her so many times that she's just power hungry, that she's just fame hungry or this or that. And also I feel like Hillary Clinton, Lilith and Capricorn, also has to do with her wanting to be the first female president. Like, she's rebelling against the classic traditional authority of the presidency being male, and she's wanting to be a female president. And also, obviously, if you want to be president, you have some insecurity with authority, you know, like just even, you know, like I kind of mentioned this, having the entitlements and feeling like you need to do this is very like Lilith and Capricorn to me. But also the fact that she lost the election is also very Lilith and Capricorn, you know.
I can only imagine, I'm sure that probably reinforces that Lilith and Capricorn exile experience of you're not capable.
Yeah.
Also, on this topic of sex and feeling incapable, you know, Capricorn has a lot to do with performance, and with Lilith having perverted or sexual undertones, an experience that might cause Lilith and Capricorn to assert their dominance in the bedroom, assert their capability to overpower someone else in the bedroom, respectability, whatever, might be an early on sexual humiliation as it pertains to their ability to perform in an early developmental stage in their sexual history, life experience, whatever. And sort of having that first experience of being made to feel incapable or not measuring up could create that sense of overcompensation that Lilith and Capricorn can have to take control, to show their power, to show their dominance in some kind of way. Power plays, definitely. And surely they can also go one of two ways. Like, you think of Lilith and Capricorn as definitely what's the opposite of submissive, subservient? The dominant person, but there can be an area that addresses their wounds surrounding their Lilith and Capricorn that makes them want to maybe not be like submissive, but almost babied and coddled.
Yeah, because they never were, you know?
Yeah, in some kind of way, in the bedroom or otherwise in life.
I kind of already touched on a little bit the emotional life of a Lilith and Capricorn, you know, don't like to be vulnerable, and this can very much affect their relationships and their partnerships as well. Lilith and Capricorn can lead to depression because of major feelings of shame and failure, especially. I feel like a lot of their emotions can be ruled by if they feel successful or if they feel like a failure. And with Lilith and Capricorn, it might be hard to ever feel like a success. There might always be this nonsensical feeling of failure no matter what you've built for yourself, and so that can definitely dig into it. You know what, now that I said that, I keep on going into celebrities, but Anthony Bourdain has Lilith and Capricorn. He also has a Capricorn moon, but everybody was like, he's so successful, like what the fuck, he got all the success he could ever want, but he might still, because he's Lilith in Capricorn, because it's nonsensical, have this feeling of failure, even that like, okay, so I reached the top and it's still not enough, or, you know, never feeling that payoff, never feeling that satisfaction, can definitely be something that can come with Lilith and Capricorn, because you're striving too high, you're striving too much possibly.
And he killed himself, right? Was that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
This can even, I feel like Lilith and Capricorn can even go into being anxious about if you do feel some sort of good emotion or fun or free feeling. Instead of just living in that and feeling that, you might instantly go to this anxiousness of like, when's it going to stop? When am I going to feel this loss? When is this going to stop happening? I'm, you know, feeling like you're not allowed to indulge in that feeling, because the second you do, it'll stop happening. So that can definitely feed into a lot of harsher emotions. And definitely Lilith and Capricorn needs to find a balance between independence and acknowledging their vulnerability. Part of Lilith and Capricorn's attraction can be this air of almost like regalness that they naturally display, of like upper echelon vibes, like, oh, if I get with that person, like they're going places. I want to attach myself to that person because of that vibe that they give off. They don't just give their attention to anybody. They can definitely put on this air feeling like there's somebody that should be respected, should almost be like bowed down to sometimes. The way that Capricorn Lilith wants to be seen is they want to be seen as in a place of status, surrounded by respectable people in respectable environments. You know, they may be very strategic with who they align themselves. The relationships they have might always be kind of, what can I get out of you? What can you get out of me? Very transactional almost. They definitely have a huge fear of showing any incompetence.
Yeah, when I think of like a Capricorn Lilith couple, I sort of think of George and Martha from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, because there's that element of sort of, we're just playing pretend around everyone. Like, this is who we are, guys. And they have this whole story and fabrication of their lives that they present to other people to sort of hide their toxic, chaotic tendencies within their relationship. And there is so much power play going on in that play as well between those two characters. And also, when I was watching the LuLaRoe documentary, that couple, the founders of LuLaRoe, Mark and Deanne, I think, they reminded me of George and Martha from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, because they were sort of doing the same thing. If you don't know, LuLaRoe is a famously toxic multi-level marketing business. You could tell that they were really in sync and playing a game together, improvising together when they sat down to do their interviews, which is also, it's a huge deal to have sort of the villains of a documentary actually sit down to do
that never happens.
Interviews. Yeah, it never happens, but they were like, everything is fine. It was less a leggings scandal and more of a social media scandal, and it was all very Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf to me.
Money is probably a huge thing, but I also think what is a really interesting example is there's a new H3 podcast, and it's called Leftovers, and it's with Hassan Piker, because Hassan's like a socialist, leftist, progressive guy. He's a Lilith in Capricorn, by the way. And he also has a Capricorn moon. He gets a lot of flack because he's rich. Very Lilith and Capricorn experience. He finally makes it. He's successful. He makes it on his own by doing these Twitch things and all that stuff. And then he immediately gets chastised for being rich all the time. So what I think is interesting is, like, he's not even trying to display his Lilith and Capricorn. He's not even trying to keep it secret, but yet people will still spin it as though it's the big scandal. And also, he's another huge example of somebody who's like a crazy workaholic and definitely uses work to distract himself, because he does like Twitch streams every day. Like, he's just always working, and it's pretty absurd. I couldn't imagine him having much of a life outside of it. Okay, so we are going to move into celebrities. First thing I will say, just like how a lot of Lilith and Capricorns have other Capricorn influences, most Lilith and Capricorns have it, or at least celebrities have it, in the 6th and the 2nd house. Was a huge theme that I saw as well. So my first example is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He has this in the 6th house. His whole career has been filled with so much of everything. You know, he went from a bodybuilder to an actor to a political figure. And actually, you know, because a lot of what we talked about is having kind of domineering rule, you know, black and white parents. His father was the local chief of police. So growing up, you know, his father was always breathing over his shoulder. Also, I don't know, maybe this is common knowledge, but his father he became a part of the Nazi party, like actively. Yeah, I was like, what? Also, I think it's interesting that he played the Terminator, which is a very highly unemotional character. Lilith and Capricorn, you know.
Well, here's the thing is that Arnold Schwarzenegger, I hate saying his name because I cannot say it right.
Same.
He became governor as the result of a recall, which the California recall system is the definition of nonsensical. It's very similar to what we just went through with Gavin Newsom, except that this recall actually came to fruition. And in order for the recall to not go through, the actual governor who is being recalled or being threatened to be recalled needs to receive 50% of the vote, which makes sense if, you know, he's running against one other person, but that's usually not the case. And so I don't know exactly what the numbers were for Arnold when he won, but he could have gotten 20% and a handful of other people gotten 10%, 10%, 5%, 5%. But if the governor, the Democratic governor at the time, did not get 50%, then he would be recalled, and whoever got the most percent out of the other people running would have been put in office, which I'm fairly sure that that's what happened, and Arnold Schwarzenegger did not receive the popular vote, which is extremely nonsensical. And that's the thing with Lilith and Capricorn. It's like, it's not going to make sense or be very straightforward or follow the straight and narrow how those people get to success. So that's your political lesson, Californians, about recalls.
The next example is a little bit more light-hearted. Tiffany Pollard, I might be saying that wrong, New York, from Flava Flav's Flavor of Love. She's a Capricorn sun. She's a Gemini moon too, which also kind of Gemini moon, reality TV, those things line up. But she's like the queen of Capricorn memes, like come on. But also the fact that she was in this show that was supposedly under the guise of finding love and, you know, falling for Flava Flav, I think we can all agree that she doesn't give a shit about Flava Flav, and she just used the show as a way to escalate her own fame. She was able to, you know, Lilith herself in there so that she became a staple of the show, just because she created so much drama, she caused so much stuff, and she just saw this as like, yes, I'm on the show, but in reality it's just a platform to escalate my fame. And I mean, I honestly think she's more famous than the show itself, because I knew about her before I knew about that show. You know, and I know that's not true with everyone.
Yeah, and you know, the strategy of going on to reality TV for reasons other than the right reasons, you know, basically just to create a name for yourself and create a brand, is not new, it's not revolutionary, but pretty much everyone does it and not everyone is successful.
That's true. But she was. She knew how to do it. She knew how to climb that steps.
She knew how to take the elevator.
Yes, she did take
instead of climbing the ladder.
She did take the elevator up there. The next person who I think is should be an inspiration, I think, actually, for all you Lilith and Capricorns out there. He's also a Capricorn moon. I've told you, there's a theme here. Is Bryan Cranston. And he wrote this whole memoir about how he had to work so hard to get those roles. Like, he did not reach fame until he was past his 30s into his much later years. Also, I think the fact that he played the dopey dad in Malcolm in the Middle is very Lilith and Capricorn, because he was the father figure, but he was a very Lilith-y father figure. You know what I mean? He was not the classic, like, dad. He was always shown as in his underwear, making a mess of himself, you know. The next person, again, sometimes there's silly connections, but Stone Cold Steve Austin has a Lilith in Capricorn. I don't know much about him, but his name is Stone Cold because he's Lilith in Capricorn, because he shows no emotion. But also, the fact that he was a wrestler and he was in the WWF, which is notorious for abusing their workers. They never get correct pay. They're always getting injured. It's a very rough plight, the plight of a wrestler, if you ever look into it. Like, these people are not well taken care of. These people are not properly paid. It is a very Lilith and Capricorn scenario. You are very much pimping yourself out for this fame and really not getting much back in the frame of, you know, monetary value or even just longevity. There's no longevity in that job, which is very the opposite of Capricorn, which can be very Lilith and Capricorn.
I mean, another Lilith and Capricorn, Clint Eastwood, was in $1 Million Baby, which is a great example of how much you have to sacrifice for the career of a fighter. Usually your life, your health.
Exactly, yeah.
All of that stuff.
Alex Jones is a Lilith in Capricorn. That's his only Lilith energy, and he has an Aquarius sun. Very Aquarius sun in its, you know, I mean, I'm biased, so I would say in its not greatest light, but he says crazy shit, obviously. So much of it is for the shock factor and all that stuff, but he has literally gotten banned off the internet. Anything having to do with him is taken off. He has really been silenced because of just the absurd shit he says. And I think that's a very Lilith and Capricorn experience. Now, sometimes, maybe sometimes that's a good thing. I think he should kind of, you know, get his stuff taken away from him because he was just perpetuating crazy things, and very harmful things to say, but I still think it's a very Lilith and Capricorn experience.
Well, he is the epitome of rebelling against the man. You can only find him at, like, ironically, banned.com, like BANNED.com.
That's so funny. Beethoven has Lilith and Capricorn as well. He has it in his 3rd house, and he is a composer, yet he's hard of hearing, and he literally went deaf by the age of 44. 3rd house, talking, communicating. This is his job, but he is even being exiled from hearing the work that he produces. He can't even enjoy the things that he puts out there fully because he's deaf, you know?
That certainly doesn't do anything for the Lilith and Capricorn motto of I am not capable. How can you feel like you're capable when you can't even fully hear what you're composing, and you certainly can't hear the applause in the background for the pieces that you put on?
I didn't even think about that. You don't even get to bask in the applause. You just get oh my god, that's so painful. That's so Lilith. Oh my god. He's a Scorpio rising, so that makes sense that it was just a life of pain and misery. No. David Letterman has this placement. He's a nightly talk show host, working all the time, work robot, Lilith and Capricorn. So another person I want to say is Joseph Smith has this. He's the guy that basically was like the founder of Mormonism, which I think is interesting because I think it's Lilith and Capricorn in the sense of he's rebelling against one set of traditional rules to make another set of even more traditional, you know, you can't go outside these lines rules. Like, what is Mormonism but just a long list of rules, of moral rules, you know?
Yeah, which really also puts him at the top.
Oh, yeah, that's
true. Well, it puts the patriarch of the family at the top. Like, the patriarch of the family is, whether you're in, like, a Mormon community that practices polyamory or not, and it's not even truly polyamory, you know, it's I don't know what the right word is. Even without that element of it, the whole idea is that the father is the connection to God, is like the elder who actually has a connection to God. It's like similar to almost the saints in Catholicism, but it's like an actual human being in your family, which is, you know, it lends itself to a pattern of patriarchal abuse in Mormonism, unfortunately.
And I think this makes sense that Mitt Romney, also a Mormon, is also a Lilith in Capricorn. Also, Nancy Reagan, not Mormon, but very conservative ideals, also a Lilith in Capricorn, you know? Okay, so the last person that I'll talk about is Keanu Reeves, has a Lilith in Capricorn, and he dropped out of school at age 17. He went to many schools, and he just always had a problem. He said, this is a quote, he was like, he was just a little too rambunctious and shot my mouth off too often. I was not generally the most well-oiled machine in the school. Very Lilith and Capricorn, rebelling against authority, switching schools, not being able to be under somebody's thumb. And I also feel like there's a connection to the fact that he was obviously the main person in the Matrix, which I think deals with a lot of the way that we look at authority, that we look at how our lives are being run and who's in control of them. Also, it's in the 5th house, so that's why I was bringing up the Matrix, because any kind of role or part that he plays is going to be very Lilith and Capricorn-y.
Doesn't Keanu Reeves also just have this like theme in the press of like, he can't find love?
Oh, really?
He can't. Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. Like, I feel like...
And he's a Cancer moon.
But, that can also be like a theme. The Lilith in Capricorn is obviously opposite Cancer. And it can be difficult to find that, especially if you're a Lilith in Capricorn who is demonstrating Lilith and Capricorn tendencies as far as workaholicism. It can be hard to balance that with actually having a fulfilling emotional life, including, a partner.
Yeah. So yes, that is our whole Lilith and Capricorn video. Next up is Lilith in the 10th house, because we do go in the sequential order here.
Check out the down bar for where else to find us, readings, channels, other social media platforms.
Yes, and thank you for everybody who has a Lilith in Capricorn and has been patiently waiting for this video. We appreciate you. Hopefully it lived up to the wait. I don't know if that's even possible because it's been so long, but you know what I mean. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Ooh, we went with the same hand this time. Capricorn structure.
Oh, really?